Please let me in.
The world ended. Didn't you get the memo?
You said it.
Come on, guys, let's go for a slice of pizza.
Yeah. So fetch. What is fetch?
Oh, it's like slang from England.
I'm Charlotte Blackwood.
I'm Maverick.
Maverick? Does your mother not like you or something?
Chunk is dead. Don't say that. Never say that. Goonies never say die.
It's the Al Travis Show. Would love having our next guest on. She's Shannon Watson. She's the head dog when it comes to majority in the middle. And I hate to say it, she's in the middle of it, and I'm glad to have her on the program, but I can't imagine being her. Shannon, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Al. How are you doing?
Honestly, I understand this about me. Somebody's got to Dr. Phil it and tell me how I get here, and I'm sure somebody has. I'm just one of those people that I don't figure out my emotion or what I'm going through until I can talk through it, right? I got to get my lips moving, and that's just how I process things.
Yeah.
So as we're going off the long weekend and we're discussing about the Annunciation school shooting and that sort of thing, I'm starting to put it together for me and what it is that's obviously people died and that bothers me, but why we got there and what is bothering me about what has happened since. And I'm busting this down after having my words come out of my mouth, is I think we are not in any way willing to boil down our issues to the real problem. And instead we want to sugarcoat it. We want to go right to the gun thing or right, whatever it is. Well, let's have a special session. We get a special session and, boom. And we didn't even have time to bust this down. Your thoughts on what happened at the Annunciation school?
I think all of us are going to look to the tools that we each have. And for the governor and legislators, they have tools in their toolbox of creating laws. My challenge with that, beyond just the logistics and
we'll talk about
finding the agreement and all of those things, is that it's really difficult to legislate to the worst situation that happens always. Like it's really hard to make rules that go to our worst instincts and stuff. And I think there's a balance there because you want to protect people, and at the same time, it's that freedom and liberty.
But it's solving problems that isn't really the problem. I know guns were used, and we can discuss guns. Let's have that over here. Let's do this. But when I break this down, and again, there are many signs now afterwards that I can tell you this young man had issues, right? Whether it's transition or not, I don't care. That isn't my point. But then he didn't know if he wanted to transition. He had ideology. He had fantasies of hurting little kids. And then he wanted to kill himself. There's a list of 3-4 pretty major things, and I'm not a psychiatrist. So he had issues. And before we went on the air, I used this earlier today. In my day, because that's how old I am, when someone had the idea of killing themselves, it was how were they going to do that to themselves? That was like what they talked about, how they handled it.
Right.
Now, for some reason, we're in a point, and I blame something on the internet. I'm going to work that out yet. I'll get it. It takes me a while. Is that we can't just do that now. He can't just he needs to find a way to become popular, fascination with.
Infamous.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, well, how do you do? Well, kids, you go after and all of a sudden it's a whole different thing now that it wasn't 40 years ago. Guns are the same. My point, and the guns are all the same. Something changed, but we're going to go after the guns. I said, can we take a breath and really bust this kid's mentally down and where we failed? And I'm big, I guess, on more mental health money because somehow that guy slipped through the cracks. And that's what I'm talking about. Things have changed. Guns haven't changed since the musket.
Well, that's a little bit. And here's the thing.
Yeah, well, we weren't putting bullets in and stamping it down.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. There's two of us in this conversation, and I personally have a really hard time talking about guns. Primarily because number one, because I can see the arguments on both sides, which is just a condition of being me. The other thing about guns that we're talking about is we're talking about people's own expression of personal safety.
Yes.
So if your gun is what makes me feel unsafe,
Yeah.
what if your gun is the thing that makes you feel safe? You know?
No, yeah,
And
no,
having
I'm
it
with you
taken
100%.
away, you would feel unsafe. You know,
Yeah.
so when we're talking about feelings of safety, we're also talking about the oldest part of our brain. Like this is like the, you know, the I forget what the name of it, but
Cortex. Yeah.
this is like the lizard part of our brain. And people who are fearful do not necessarily always act rationally. So I'm not quite sure if substituting one group's
Fear.
expression
I
of
get you.
fear with
Yeah.
another group's expression of fear is actually really going to help us any. It's just going to have different people feeling fearful.
Yeah, I don't get in those in power get to let other people. I get the idea of it, but my point is if we just try to talk it on a 5,000-foot level,
Yeah.
let's not overreact. Let's take this time to, and this time, is this like the 64th time? I mean, my point
Right.
is, you know, this isn't new.
Yeah.
Let's take this. This is only 4 months from the shooting of the Hoffmans and the Hortmans. I mean, I get the gun thing is forefront,
Yeah.
but to not take the time and bust up the difference. The guy from the Hoffman-Hortman deal, I'm not a medical expert. Lunatic comes to mind. I'm not a medical, but, you know, the guy got issues. But they're different issues, right? This guy had the ability to plan and do this thing and get the mask and the cop out. This is another level. The kid here in LA just had his fixation and he was going to do bad. They're different. We need to bust them down. You can't just say everything's the same. I just want us, before we change anybody's fear, and I love that you bust it down like that, we have to discuss, boil it down to what was the issue. What is the difference between the two? What are the difference between those that feel bad about themselves and want to hurt others? If you're a political whack job, and you know, there's different reasons, and we need to talk that out. And I'm telling you, mental health, it's the same thing with the naked guy in the Capitol, right? Okay, it's a whole nother level. No one felt nervous about the guy. He wasn't hiding a concealed weapon. Got it. But he, what? That joke isn't just sitting there waiting to be had? Come on. You know, if I'm naked guy saying I'm the governor in the Senate chambers, that's not enough to find me some professional help to talk through some issues.
Right.
If that isn't enough, then these two were never going to be talked to.
Yeah. I think part of the challenge is that there isn't probably one root cause. There isn't one solution. There's like 14.
Yeah.
And when, you know, particularly, you know, legislators and the governor are supposedly in positions of power and people look to them and say, well, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? Like, you're supposed to be a leader. What are you going to do? And it's really hard to say, not going to do anything, or, you know, going to wait, or whatever. I do think the loneliness epidemic is
back to the internet, by the way.
The what?
Back to the internet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, well, here's a good example. You and I talk once a week for half an hour every week for like more than a year now.
One of my favorite times.
Thank you. Me too. I don't think you and I have ever connected in person, have we?
No, I don't think we've ever actually shaken hands or met. No, I don't think so.
So you and I have this existing relationship through the internet, by, you know, and radio. And so that's a connection that we have. And that's a connection, I think, that has been positive for both of us. The challenge with connections through the internet with people that might not be so positive is that they're a lot easier to come by. And there's a lot more of them.
That's a good point.
You know, and so like when we are subbing out our in-person relationships with, you know, either people we know or randos on the internet, I think that can exacerbate some of the loneliness issues and the connection issues, and
connecting to the wrong people. Connecting to the wrong people as well. If you are of an ilk that wants to do some sort of harm to whatever group or whatever,
yes,
you can find similar folks pretty easily on the internet, right? You type in I hate whoever, and all the I hate whoever's show up, and now you're in a feed-a-thon with each other. Back in the day, see, I love how often I use that phrase now. I am my dad.
Feed-a-thon?
You might be, I hate these guys over here, whatever guy, But unless you happen to be at a cocktail party and somebody slipped, you met one other guy. You didn't all of a sudden have 6,400 across the nation all feeding into your weird loop.
Right.
And maybe that has a lot more to see. This is why we talk things out.
The echo chambers are a big deal.
What I find interesting, and then I got to go to break, is that, I use the hat there. When I mentioned in front of my phone I want a fedora hat, Facebook instantly has fedora hats all for sale, and they don't go away.
Yeah.
How does someone post pictures of your gun with the wording on it and all the rest, and somewhere, somehow, the internet guys don't flag it and say, whoa, some human needs to look at it. Okay, computer says, looks like guns with weird, let human look at it, and human looks says, yeah, it looks a little, that's not, recipes for pie. Let's talk to somebody local. I don't know that I want Bigger Brother that much in my life, but we might have to have more of that if the internet's going to put all these people together. I find that hard to believe. You got pictures of you with all that. And I also say this about child porn. I believe the internet could do the algorithm and say, whoa, for whatever reason, they're not. And that bothers me. Your thoughts on that just quick. I think the internet has to help us.
If the social media companies don't employ enough people to do that, then it doesn't make a difference. And then, of course, we start talking about First Amendment and
I get it, but if he posted it out to the internet web and said, hey, here's me with my shiny guns and say I want to kill whoever, and maybe there aren't enough people. But again,
I don't think there's enough people. And also, until he shot somebody, he didn't commit a crime.
No, and I agree. But if this comes out of Bloomington, whatever, the Minneapolis, that flag deal goes to the Minneapolis police. Take a look. Old Bobby Johnson here is...
Can you imagine the flood of things that would be coming at the police departments?
And so now the police looked and said, this one does bother me a little bit. Maybe we got to keep an eye on it. Maybe we got to go talk to somebody. I don't know. Somehow we've got to protect ourselves better from the thoughts. And I get the First Amendment. I'm a First Amendment guy. But you throw it out there for the world, then the world needs to react. Because, again, I don't want to rip at parents. I don't know these people. I don't know how you can tell your kids that off. That he's that off without saying, and I get it, my heart breaks. I don't want to call Jimmy a counselor. I get it. Yeah. But we got to stop. And this is the mental health thing. Once we stop all saying, oh, I thought little Jimmy had a mental health problem, so then he's scarred for life. No, you go, you find out he's okay, or you get him okay, and we can move on. But the fact we're scared to turn those folks in is the issue, or one of the issues.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about access to mental health resources and the availability of mental health resources all day long. Again, not enough people who is doing this work.
Naked guy saying he's a governor isn't good enough to get you a conversation with a mental health professional. We are in trouble. Real trouble. Got to go to break. We'll be back because we haven't even talked about the whole, what everybody's talking about doing, the special session. How can that even work? We'll talk about it. Shannon Watson's my gal. Next on the Al Travis Show.
Braver Angels Minnesota is part of a national movement that brings together conservatives, liberals, independents, and others to restore trust, respect, and goodwill in politics. We seek not to eliminate our differences, but rather deal with them head on, with respect and understanding. We do not try to change people's views, but how they view the other side. There will always be differences. Braver Angels Minnesota believes the best way forward is to change how we deal with those differences. Join the civil conversation at mn.braverangels.org.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
amongst friends. The Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
Love having her on. She's Shannon Watson with Majority in the Middle. Always a pleasure. So just the logistics, Shannon, if you can talk us through it. Let's say there are enough folks that want to do something, whatever that might be, so we need a special session. All the numbers, we're 2 senators shy right now. We're 1 House member shy, but they'll all be back by, November 4th. The game is up in flux, but in reality, it's all very tight, right? I mean, it's all nip and tuck. So when could they do a special session? And in all reality, why would they if you can't guarantee what's going to happen? My point being, at 67-67, you call a special session, some rogue Republican, I want to do a new loon legislation. The loons are going crazy up north. And all of a sudden we're off and running, right? I mean, you can't stop the ball once you start it.
Correct. And that's sort of the thing. Only a governor can call a special session. But once the governor calls a special session, the legislature is in charge. And they are the ones who decide the agenda, and they are the ones who decide how long they're there. The answer to why would they do that even if they didn't have agreement, it would be to make people take a vote and get on record. At least that's the way it would be in the Senate, because the DFL has the majority in the Senate. I can totally see the Senate, DFL, they're saying, okay, well, you're going to vote against this. You're going to vote against this on the record. I don't necessarily think the Senate has a great track record in getting agreement on gun bills, because they had the opportunity. It was last year, 2 years ago,
24,
and they blew it up. They could have gotten the straw purchase, extra penalties for straw purchases, was when somebody who can pass a background check buys guns for somebody who cannot. Yeah. Senator Julia Coleman, who has been on your show many times.
She's coming up right after you.
Awesome. We'll ask her about this bill. She authored the bill. It went through judiciary unanimously, bipartisan vote. It got stuck in finance, and then it wound up being cloned, and which is basically when you photocopy the paper and put a different number on it, and then added to the trigger ban bill. So of course that passed 34-33 party line vote. And then, of course, that was the thing that got lumped into the big omnibus bill that got recently stripped out by the Supreme Court, or by the court decision.
Yeah, the Ramsey. Yeah.
Yes.
So all that being said, except for a political maneuver, we're going to get you online. Your vote there. Is there any serious reason to do it? And I guess I'm saying we don't even know if this governor is going to be wanting to run for governor. Right. Well, if he says, I'm not running for governor, but I'm going to call this, that's lame ducky as all heck. Does any of this go anywhere? It seems like little kabuki theater.
I'm not sure if he could actually, okay, so there's several different perspectives.
You have 1 minute.
Right? Okay, so either he calls it because he actually wants to get something done. He calls it because activists are on him, and he can say, okay, well, I'm doing my piece. I called it, whether or not it gets done or not. He could be doing it in a lame duck session and spending all of his political capital that he has left if he's not running. He could get anything that could be done in a special session or in next year's session, using that for fuel for a possible presidential run. Or he could just fail miserably at all of it.
This is going to be kind of fun to watch. That's really I love it. We're going to need playing cards like a baseball thing, who's up and who's not. I appreciate you a ton, Shannon. That's a great rundown. Thank you very much. Shannon Watson
give me a deadline, and I can spit out all the things.
With Majority in the Middle. Love having her on.